One test. One test.
Secretary Aguilar, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
You ready to proceed?
Yes.
Order of the Board of State Prison Commissioners scheduled for today, Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at 1 p.m. The hour is 1 p.m. And we'll kick off the meeting with the roll call. Ms. Mattson?
Governor Lombardo,
Here.
Attorney General Ford,
Here.
Secretary of State Aguilar,
Here.
Governor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Move on to the first period of public comment. No vote or action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda unless the matter is specifically posted on the agenda and as an item upon which action may be taken. Board of State Prison Commissioners will impose a time limit of 3 minutes or may place reasonable restrictions on the time, place, and manner of public comments. The board, within its discretion, may allow for public comment on individual agenda items. Please state your first and last name if you wish to provide public comment. Do we have any public comment there in Carson City? Mr. Aguilar.
Yes, Governor, we have one. You have to push the button for.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Deb Conrad, and I'm the Higher Education and Prison Program Director for Western Nevada College. We offer workforce and academic pathways at Northern Nevada Correctional Center and Stewart Conservation Camp. I'm here today to offer a comment on agenda item number 5 in regard to establishing a new administrative code to define fees that are charged to incarcerated people for the use of electronic devices. I reviewed the revised proposed regulation R097-24 and did not find reference to fees or charges specifically related to using devices for the purposes of participating in college and prison programs or other educational opportunities. I respectfully request that no fees be assessed for access to education, including per-minute use fees, and that the regulation include language specifically addressing this. Access to electronic devices will provide a myriad of opportunities to better serve our incarcerated students and likely reach more students. So my hope is that the financial barriers like fees and other charges for access to education are removed. Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate the work that is being done here to develop the regulation.
Thank you, Ms. Conrad. Anybody else? Secretary?
Yes, one more.
Good afternoon. My name's Randy Santiago. My son was placed in the care of Nevada Department of Corrections as punishment, not for punishment. Since being in custody, he has been robbed at night point. He has had his property stolen, including his TV, held hostage in the cell, and extorted for money. His paperwork was stolen with our information, and he was threatened that if he reported anything, they would harm me and my wife. While at Stewart Camp, he was threatened for not wanting to hold knives and drugs. He requested to move to the main institution for the protection of his life and remove himself from danger. And in return, he was written up for refusing to house. He was doing well at this institution, but his case manager told him that he had to go to a camp. He was told he was transferring in a Lovelock camp, but in reality, he was transferred to Southern Desert. While at the camp there, he was also threatened because he refused to hold knives and drugs. So again, he requested to transfer to the main institution. When transferred to the institution, his case manager and other staff asked if he really wanted to go to the general population because this place was called the Lion's Den. That is when all this happened. Some offenders really want to change, but if we don't control our prisons, rehabilitation is impossible, even if the programs are evidence-based. We allow offenders to continue their criminal behavior in prison. What incentive do they have to change? What chances do the ones that want to change have? I worked in corrections from 1992 to last year, where I retired from the Federal Bureau of Prisons after 20 years, and I know most prisons are reactive instead of proactive. I don't feel we should lose a loved one before changes are made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago, and for your information, the board is in possession of your letter.
That's it, Governor.
Do you have any public comment here in Las Vegas?
Good afternoon. My name is Jody Hocking. I'm the founder and executive director of Return Strong. We represent people both inside NDOC and their families outside. I just want to start today and recognize that on the agenda is really a landmark moment in public rulemaking, and the proposed agenda item I think is number 5. I forgot. And the testament to collaboration and in making this happen. Together, there were several stakeholder organizations and NDOC that worked to create new NAC language around fiscal processes. That's actually been on the books for over 10 years, and the agency was supposed to be participating in the 233B process, and it never did. The passage of SB 105 created accountability to that legislation and the processes that exist to ensure that as a state, we find these solutions together. The new proposed NAC language aims to address the need for better financial controls and accountability within the correctional system and its processes, which have for a very long time been predatory towards incarcerated people and their families. This collaboration really works to rectify those longstanding issues and create really a more transparent process for everyone. We are very dedicated to this process, partnered with the Fines and Fees Justice Center, who has also been committed to eliminating unjust imposition of custody fees. And together with NDOC, we ensure that the voices of those who are directly impacted by the current financial practices were heard. And we just wanted to say that this has been really a groundbreaking situation, and we hope that future collaboration can actually move forward to create better systems and that are more just and equitable to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Close the first opportunity for public comment, and we'll move to an adjustment of the agenda. At this time, we are going to take the agenda out of order, moving item 5 before item 3. Item 5 is the public hearing pertaining to a new Nevada Administrative Code that will be establishing reasonable deductions from money credited to offenders' store fund and inmate welfare fund. The proposed seeks to establish new regulations to defray costs associated with operations of electronic devices and other fees, and reasonable deductions for money credited to the account of an offender. This public hearing was noticed on May 23rd, 2024. In addition to the public hearing being noticed on May 23rd, 2024, a public workshop was noticed on May 14th, 2024. The workshop was held pursuant to the notice on May 29th, 2024. We will now hold the public hearing based on the proposed language provided to the Legislative Council Bureau as discussed at the workshop. Director Zarenda, please place into record the agreed upon changes to the proposed administrative code based upon the feedback received from the public during the workshop.
Sure. This is James Arenda, DZURENDA. I'm a director for the Nevada Department of Corrections. Agenda item number 5 is a public hearing that was related to a new Nevada Administration Code, which is also called the NAC, the NAC, to establish reasonable deductions from money credited to offender store fund and inmate welfare fund. The proposed seeks to establish new regulations to defray costs associated with operations of electronic devices, other fees, and reasonable deductions from money credited to an account of an offender. Pursuant to NRS 233B, the Nevada Department of Corrections performed a small business impact analysis and determined that the new proposed regulation, NAC 209, to the best of our abilities, is not likely to impose a direct or significant economic burden upon small businesses or directly restrict the formation, operation, or expansion of small businesses. This certified statement is the first official document in the proposed regulation. LCB file number R097-24 is a new proposed Nevada Administration Code under the NAC 209. The department facilitated a public workshop on Wednesday, May 29th, 2024, and will be presenting these changes and recommendations from that public workshop in the proposed language today. First, I will go to recommended under sections 2A of the proposals was to change and remove from family of offenders when we're talking about electronic mail, that it's to be a recommended external electronic mail to the offender. Again, another section we looked at was section 4A. During the public workshop, advocacy groups requested that fees in the above table under fees for credit and debit card payments be charged to a flat percentage. We reached out to proposed awarded vendor to ask if it could be changed, and they informed us that they are unable to change these fees because they are a set fee that is by the credit card companies. So this section of the NAC is recommended to stay the same. Next recommendation on 4B2, except as otherwise noted under NRS 209.241, which allows for 2 free written statements per year. And that'll be allowed when they are requested. The department or vendor authorized by the department to provide a fiscal financial services for the offender shall be charged those fees after 2 free written statements per year. Lastly, during the public workshop, advocacy groups requested that item G above, items related to the offender's work, including without limitation clothing and tools, be removed from the NAC. However, the agency has done an analysis and is unable to remove these charges from the NAC due to the fiscal impact it will have on the department. This change would need to go through a legislative session and possibly considered during a future 233B process. During the public workshop, advocacy groups expressed concerns about the costs of placing funds on offender accounts for phone calls and other charges, stating that it was challenging for offenders or indigent offenders to afford the fees associated with calls. We have worked with our proposed awarded vendor, and although we are unable to make changes to the fee schedule, the department plan is to allow that every offender be allowed 15 minutes of a free phone call every single day under the new contract, which we plan on implementing after the legislative commission process and the Board of Examiners approval of the new contract. This concludes the review of the NAC and the small changes from the workshop. We now want to open up public comment also for public hearing related to the proposed NAC 209.
All right, Secretary Aguilar, anybody there in Carson City wishes to make public comment on agenda item number 5?
I don't see any, Governor.
All right, do you have anybody here in Las Vegas wishing to make public comment?
I gave at the beginning, I didn't realize we were in the middle.
All right. We've opened the public comment. Directors and you need?
Governor, I do have to say I'm a bit confused as to Director Zarenda's presentation of this. I could not follow his numbers as he was speaking. And so the changes and recommendations he was making, I could not. Maybe it's just me and the way it's formatted.
Did you receive the document associated with the item?
Yeah, I downloaded them off the website. So,
No. It was given up there and it states on the top, so I'm speaking points.
but I think,
With red line.
Do you have the redlined item?
no, I do not. I have was on the public website, is what I have.
It was broke out. So, Mr. Gilmore, do we re-agendize?
So I'm not sure if the public could understand what he was saying, if I can't understand it. So, but I am slow. I understand.
It does not need to be re-agendized because these are not considered substantive changes. They are just the two changes that were made are not substantive. And because we read them into the record under the workshop minutes, which is required for any workshop changes. So it does not need to be re-agendized. We can go again and indicate specifically what section numbers those are if we want to make it clearer for the records. But it does not need to be re-agendized, and a motion would be proper at this time.
I think the issue is if this is not available publicly on the website for people to see, it concerns me a bit.
Randall Gilmer for the record. The workshop changes are not required to be placed on the website prior to the public hearing because they were non-substantive changes. However, we can certainly, as part of the motion, ask that those red line changes be added and put into this agenda so that they are part of the public record moving forward, so that the public can see precisely what the changes were and what was voted on by the board with regard to approving the proposed language.
I understand what you're saying, sir, but I have to say that I believe in transparency and having the public be able to participate in these opportunities and to give them as much opportunity to participate. So with that, if they do move forward, I guess I will be voting no, because I think the public needs to have ample opportunity to understand what changes are being made. Thank you. I know it's legally correct, but sometimes we have to understand our community and our state and our constituencies.
Secretary Aguilar, we're being advised here that it is posted online.
It is, but the changes are not. If you go to the Board of Prisoners website, you go to the commission and you see attachments and you download that attachment, the red line is not the available document. So what happened is I forgot my book. So I went to the website to download the materials. These are the materials I have downloaded, which is also available to the public. So that's my fault, and I apologize.
When's that next meeting? August. Is there urgency in doing this, Mr. Governor?
No, I don't think so.
Can we just bring it back in August then? Like with the exact same stuff? Just put it out, let the public see it, and bring it back in August.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, but
Secretary?
I understand. Yes, I did. That's up to you, the call of you as the chair and the director.
The potential concern with that, sir, is because for a permanent regulation, they're supposed to be adopted by July. So it'll be a year from now. So it'll have to be a temporary, so it might have to be a temporary, and then we'd have to redo the entire workshop process again. That was why we were putting it on the agenda today.
Can we do a meeting outside the formal process?
An emergency meeting?
Emergency meeting?
I don't believe you can pass permanent regulations as part of an emergency meeting. We could have it as a temporary regulation. It would work.
So you don't think we can agendize an emergency meeting and then pass this regulation before July 1?
July 1's Monday.
That's,
Today is Thursday afternoon.
and there'll be a 3-day thing, so we could.
Sufficient posting.
Yeah.
You'd also have to, if we change the proposed administrative language that's going to be viewed upon, then that's a 30-day notice, which is why the law does not generally have changes after the workshop if they're going to be done within 30 days, because then the agenda for the public hearing has to be re-agendized as well, and that is a 30-day time frame as opposed to a day.
Okay. With that being said, thank you, Director Zarenda. At this time, I recommend that this board follow the recommendations of Director Zarenda to include the revisions into the proposed regulation. I will make a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yes to say.
All opposed?
Oh, okay. All those against signify by saying nay.
Nay.
All right. Motion passes. All right, but as a matter of practice, please ensure that the posting is provided on the website.
Certainly.
All right, we will move on to The original agenda item number 3, acceptance and approval of the minutes, March 14th, 2024 meeting. Do any board members have any questions reference the minutes?
Move approval?
All right, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, director's comments and departmental updates. Mr. Zaremba.
Sure, James Arenda for the record. For updates, I think it was important to make sure that because it was a public safety concern over the last year was the vacancy factors for the Department of Correction for safety concerns in housing units and not having enough staff. We reduced did a very large recruiting and hiring process that we changed to hire correction officers. We currently are doing academy classes back to back. We went from a 36% vacancy rate down to a 24, which is continuing to decrease, which means that we have more correction officers working at the facilities, which brought up in past hearings. We have heard how many times visits have been canceled for the families and canceled at the last minute for staffing, which is pretty much going non-existent now unless there's an emergency at the facility, non-staffing related. But staffing has been increasing, so times will feel at least more safe, and that the staffing vacancy will continue to go down, hopefully below 10% by the end of this next fiscal year. The other issues that I wanted to bring up is that the population numbers of our offenders continuously increases. Currently this morning, we're at 10,453 offenders in the institutions. That is putting a strain on our higher security facilities. The lower minimum security facilities keep decreasing the amount of those qualified, which may bring up concerns in the future about downsizing our minimum security camps and downsizing the minimum security parts of our facility where beds will be more prevalent and where we need more higher security beds. The other thing that was brought up was heating concerns. The air conditioning units tend to, during all summer months, taking a strain on the compressors. There has been measures and policies set in place to make sure that every unit is heat tested to be below heat index standard. And also starting today, the cells are actually going to be randomized in every housing unit to be below heat standards as well. To make sure that if it does go above the heat index standards for the state of Nevada, which I believe is 85, that the unit will either be shut down or the fenders moved out temporarily until the units are fixed. But they're looking at replacing these compressors as fast as possible and bringing in portable fans and swamp coolers when any of the units go down to help with the numbers of those that are uncomfortable in the units. But right now, I know I can attest that I don't feel there's any health and safety concerns with that. That's really all I got for agency updates. We continue to work as transparent as we can and to work with vested parties or interest groups and families to make sure that our agency runs in the best it can for everyone's standard, whether it's the offender, the families, the agency, or the public. That's all I got.
Thank you. Do we have any member questions of Mr. Zaremba?
No questions.
All right, we will close agenda item number 4 and subsequently move to agenda item number 6, administrative regulations not subject to NRS 233B process for discussion and possible action. Mr. Zaremba.
This is James Arena for the record again. We have 4 on the agenda for ARs to permanently identify. However, on AR 362, weapons training and qualifications, I'm requesting to remove that one this time and for a subsequent hearing to be reviewed for permanent due to some possible CBA and union questions, FOP union questions that might be related to being in negotiations at the time for their new contract. So removing that at this time, we're asking to. Administrative Regulation 360, which is correction employee officer basic training. In this discussion, there were 4 major items of changes from the last administrative regulation, and it was to identify an actual assigned an employee development administrator to the deputy director of operations for more consistency around the board and more consistency statewide. Second thing was adjusted the employee development manager's roles as it relates to peace officers training, to make it consistent with jails and prisons around the state and the post. The third one was define the role of the actual academy commanders and their supervision that falls under the employee development administrator, and those duties are identified. The last thing that was also identified was just where a correctional officer trainee, which we call a COT, where they can and cannot be assigned, which was recognized and identified by the FOP union and also the post standards to make sure liabilities of where they can work and where they can't, why they're assigned as a COT is identified in this directive. That's all I have for AR 360. AR 407 was use of handcuffs and restraints. What was actually changed in here was the prohibition of using restraints or any type of restraining devices on pregnant offenders during their pregnancy or during delivery. The last one was AR 615, which is level of continuity of care. This was changing the identification, what we call a URP, the Utilization Review Panel, to identify it as a URC, which is a Utilization Review Committee instead of a panel. Secondly, on this AR was clarifying the definition of emergency care versus non-emergent care to make it consistent to continuity of care in the community. That's all I have on this section.
All right, do we have any member questions of Director Sorrento on any one of these administrative regulations?
Yes, I do. We did receive
Go ahead, sir.
some written public comment on the regulations regarding weapons trainings and qualifications. Are we in compliance given that public comment, written public comment?
Well, the director just said he was removing that particular item from today's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Secretary?
No other questions, thank you.
General?
No.
All right. Hearing no further questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
To be clear, the motion is to approve AR 360, AR 407, and AR 615. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, so moved.
All right, we have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you, Director. All right, now we'll move to agenda item number 7. This is actually not the second period of public comment. This will be the third. This period of public comment is for any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the public body. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under the public comment period. The Board of State Prison Commissioners will oppose a 3-minute time. Do we have any public comment for this period there in Carson City?
Yes, sir.
Aguilar.
Yes, we do. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. I wanted to ask if our institutions are ACA accredited, and if not, why?
I don't believe we can answer questions directly, but you can raise the issue. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
We also need him to identify himself, Mr. Aguilar.
Oh, sir, can you come back to the microphone and state your name for the record?
Randy Santiago.
Any further public comment there?
No, sir.
Do we have any comment here in Las Vegas? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Leslie Turner, local organizer. The AC that's what brought me out today. We've been getting a lot of calls from High Desert in particular about the heat. And I know that it's being worked on. I know that, this same thing happened last summer. So it's kind of alarming to me that here we are again, a year later, having the same conversation. But I realize that it is being worked on, and I understand it is a work in progress. I understand there's a lot of different parts into how we solve a problem. There's the immediate response, and then there's legislation. There's a lot of different avenues in which a problem can be addressed. That's not up for debate. What I'm here to actually say is if we could have some transparency around what the plan is, because we're getting frantic calls from the inside pretty much every day, multiple times a day, about the heat, about how they're being held in their cells now, being locked down, how they're everyone's agitated, everyone's getting upset, obviously. You said that it's 85 degrees. They're saying that it feels like, and it could be 85, but they're saying it feels like it's over 100 degrees, and that makes sense. I don't know if any of you have had your AC go out at home. 85 degrees is hot, and it continues to rise. And so whatever protocols are happening, if there is fans, or if there's, I've heard that they were told that they were going to be given ice water, and then that didn't happen. They just gave them regular water with no ice. The water's coming out from the faucet extremely hot, so they're having to take extremely hot showers in, super hot temperatures already with no relief. And so I think just in the interest of just human rights, I think that it's important to, one, just let the public know exactly what the plan is to mitigate in the meantime, because I've heard so many different things. I heard there's parts been ordered, then I heard that no, we're researching what parts we actually need, and then it's just a lot of conflicting information. So if we could disseminate exactly what's happening in terms of mitigating their levels of comfort on the inside, and and it's not just them, it's also the COs, so and thank you for addressing it, and hopefully that there will be some resolution to that as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ms. Turner.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tina Turrentine, a loved one of the incarcerated. Just to piggyback off of
Did you get her last name?
I got Turrentine.
Turrentine, Turentine,
First name?
Tina.
Thank you.
And to piggyback off of what Leslie said, is correct. We're getting lots of phone calls about this. My loved one is one of them. He had an anxiety attack and had to walk himself through it every night. They're not 85%. I understand that's something you guys are working towards, but they're not at 85 degrees. There was another one in his unit that was actually having one way worse than him, kicking on the door, trying to get guards to help him having an anxiety attack because the heat is so extreme. There are other units where they're putting wet T-shirts and things on their heads that are not relieving them. It's just going from bad to worse. And it is a huge concern. And I understand what you said, but it's not clear on when, where, how long will it take for them to be moved out if this is not addressed. I'm emailing the warden often, and Zorenda, you probably get them too because I tag you on them. I try not to overwhelm you with the emails, but often Beam does not get back to us. Sometimes he does. It may take days or after 3 or 4 emails. I would rather not have to be a pest. But it is of concern. Like, these are our loved ones. I understand that you guys are here and some of them have done crimes, some of them have not. Whatever the case may be, they're in there and they're suffering. It's not fair. There will be legal actions taken to someone who leaves their dog in a car, but they're allowed to live like this. Businesses get shut down for these reasons, but our loved ones are suffering, and then we're left to deal with it. The guards are aggravated, I'm sure, and I understand. I've heard conversations being where they're being disrespected and thrown on the floor, sprayed in their face, cursed at, and all of these things because of probably their aggravation to the heat, because their suffering is just as well. The unit my loved one is in, they put a fan in, 2 fans. That did barely nothing for the common area, so it did nothing to the cells. Then they put a little one thing that's ran by ice. He says ice and water put in there, not even ice, so it's not cooling. enough. The warden says, oh, it's putting it where it's at 81 degrees is what he's being told. The guards mark what they want to mark. There's a particular guard in that unit who locks them down whenever he feels like it, however long, gets there when it's time to take them out of their cells. They're not being let out in a timely manner to even get out. So that means they're stuck in these cells with this heat. That's alarming to me. I don't know what can be done or how fast, like Leslie said, but we need more clarity on that because that's cruel. That's inhumane. So yeah, that's my stance on that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jody Hocking, JODIHOCKING. I just want to take on what everybody else said because we're getting calls too and those issues. I think that one of the things would be really helpful, and I don't know if there's a way to do that here, is we all the time, this happened last year and I know we've talked about it numerous times where it was like, well, they're saying it's, 79 degrees, it's 81 degrees, it's whatever. That is not the experience of people. So like writing something on a piece of paper doesn't mean anything when people are still suffering inside. And I think we need to find some method of like accountability, whether it's, I know there are other states that have volunteer investigators that come from stakeholder groups that are able to go in and be part of that. Like go in and have somebody who is allowed in to go see that those temperatures are really true. Because right now, be honest, like there's a distrust between what is happening on the ground, what is said from administration, and what stakeholder organizations are hearing from their people. So in the scheme of finding solutions, which is what I think we're all here for, whether they're long-term or short-term, and also providing more transparency, and it may be by having a way to be able to verify, because honestly, something's not connecting.
Any other further public comment? All right. Close the third opportunity for public comment and move for adjournment.
So move.
You have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.